Reed, if you would, just introduce yourself. Tell us how you got into coaching and your coaching journey up to here.
So my name is Ryan Breeze. My father was a coach for 40 some odd years, and that's what I wanted to do. And after high school, I went and played football at Southwestern, a little D2 school here in Weatherford, and came back home. And when I graduated high school, my dad had retired and to follow me around, and then he got back into it just as a lay coach, and he was an assistant at Eisenhower. So my first year back, or my first year at college, I was at Eisenhower, and then that summer he got the head job at Lawton High, so I went back home to Lawton High, and that's where I played, and I was an assistant there for 13 years, and then when he finally decided to give it up for good, I was named the head coach. I was the head coach there for 6 years, and then this offseason came out here to Elgin.
What's your transition been like?
It's been really good. When Coach Castro played for me, and he had reached out to me back in probably January about possibly coming out here, and I didn't talk to a whole lot of people about it. I talked to my immediate family about it, and I wanted to keep it quiet under wraps until everything was board approved, and so I spoke to a few people. Literally the last 3 to 4 years, there have been a ton of people that talked to me about, you need to get to Elgin, and with the things that were going on in Lawton, we lost a middle school, we lost the boundaries, our numbers were declining, enrollment was declining, and we had a really good run for a long time, but things weren't looking good. There'd been a lot of things that hadn't gone our way, and people were talking to me about trying to come out here, and a big deal to me was like, the people you seek advice from,
right?
You guys all know Richie Large. He and I had dinner, and he was like, "Man, I really like to get you out to Elgin." And then, Pastor Keybone, we ate our meals there, and he was really involved with our program, and he talked to me a great deal. He's like, "Man, I really like to get you out to Elgin," and so it just kind of seemed right. And then they had an opening, and I went and met with Chalmer and Adam one day, and then came back and met with the staff, and I met with Coach Laura because, Mr. Mraz, it's Coach Mraz to me because I played for Coach Mraz, and then I played for Coach Laura, and so I knew those guys, had an existing relationship with them, and we talked, and it got board approved in April. And what was interesting for me was Chalmer posted a picture of our family, and I had like 3 Elgin parents reach out to me right then and welcome me, and everybody was very positive. It was really, really cool experience.
The transition had to have been a little bit easier. I know for a long time you were at one place, but the transition had to be a little bit easier. A, you didn't really have to move your family, and B, you had some familiarity on the staff with having Coach Adam, and then things like that. Talk about how that makes things a little bit easier as a coach.
It does help a great deal. The fact that he and I worked together, I think for maybe 4 seasons before he decided to come out here. So that helps a great deal, and having a familiarity with what he likes to do and all that jazz. And then so our family situation is really unique. Our daughter is going to be a 6th grader, and we were really looking hard at getting her out of LPS. We're not certain. We want her to be involved in everything, from a school standpoint, or from an academic standpoint and an athletic standpoint. And there really wasn't much for her to do. She likes basketball, she likes golf, and she likes track, and she was going to struggle if we had stayed where we were. And looking into coming out here, that she's got a chance to be a part of some successful programs, and we want her experience to be a good one. And from a coaching side of it, I was fed up with the multi-high school crap. You know what I mean? Where in a multi-high school district, that there's so many things that happen backdoor behind the scenes.
Right.
Like if you have too much success, and for example, Lawton High and Eisenhower was a big rivalry, and we went on a run there where we beat them 12 years in a row by an average score of 50-14. Well, we felt like we were winning because we had really good kids. We worked really hard. We got them prepared, and Eisenhower people got fed up with it. You know what I mean? And so they were able to get some things done that really hurt Lawton High School. So I wanted to be in a one high school town where everybody's pulling on the same rope, and like the Friday night atmosphere at Elgin. The coaches sent me some videos of the stands. I mean, it's packed and it's loud, and I wanted to be a part of that as a coach, and then I wanted my kids to be a part of that, and just a one high school town, everybody pulling on the same rope.
And I know we haven't played any games yet or anything like that. I know we've only kind of, I know you went through spring with them. You were here for those 2 weeks. Then you've kind of been here, obviously, since then. Kind of first impressions of not just necessarily the team, but the town and kind of coaching staff and some of that stuff. We'll get to the team stuff later, but kind of first impressions of parents and then town and all that kind of stuff.
I think it all starts at the top. You know what I mean? Like, we had our district meeting with all the new teachers, and Mr. Mraz got up there and he introduced every new hire. And something that blew me away was he knew every new hire's name. He knew if they were a first-year teacher, where they just graduated from. If they were an experienced teacher, he knew what school district they'd worked at. And, he introduced every single one of them and said that about them to the whole faculty. And I was amazed at, the one that he was that involved. A lot of times, like, superintendents are, they're removed from that,
right,
and they're not in the know. That shows that, he's taking a great deal of pride in the people that he's bringing in and the people that he's hiring. And I think it starts there, and he knows the caliber of human he's hiring. And for me, that's been the biggest issue is, like, we're dealing with a lot higher caliber human. It's quality people. They're high character people, both the kids, and that's evidence, or that's a direct result of their raising. You know what I mean? It's a better caliber human. As a result, it's a better caliber kid, and that's a testament to the community. That's a testament to the school district, and I'm really excited about, and something I want to get my family involved in.
Coaching style, coaching philosophies. How would you describe your coaching style? And because you've been coaching for 19 years, mm-hmm. right? Has there been anything that you would say that's changed over the years that you was stuck on?
19 years.
Yeah, it's funny. Like growing up as a player, I responded to the coaches that everybody hated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted that guy that was gonna
in your face,
get in my face, rip me a new one. Demand everything. And I loved it. I ate that up. And but when I started coaching track, I didn't have a track background. My wife did. I started coaching track. And my wife came on staff, and our best kid, he was a phenomenal football player, phenomenal track kid. And I just told her, I'm like, you're going to have to coach this kid. Like, I can't freaking do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And for whatever reason, those two hit it off. And so she had to tell me, like, you can't yell at this kid, And so for me, the biggest thing, I want to treat everybody the same. I always want to, I don't care if you're the best player, you're the worst player. I want to treat everybody the same. However, I do have to learn, how does that kid respond? And like, for example, this kid, like, he would show up, and there were days he had predetermined he was going to piss me off and get thrown out of the workout. You know what I mean? But he told me, you have to go talk to him and just ask him. So sure enough, hey, are you doing what you're supposed to do? No. Well, we'd like for you to do this. And okay, coach. And he would go do it. And I didn't like it, but by God, we needed him, and we needed him to perform on Friday night, and we had adapted. And it's funny because, like, even now, he's an adult now, and like, if I were to text him, or if my dad were to text him or call him, whatever, he probably wouldn't answer. But if my wife calls, he answers right away. You know what I mean? Right? It's like, oh, hey, Coach Sharon. So that's been the biggest adjustment for me. And like, you got to adapt or die, right? We don't want to be a dinosaur. We don't want to become extinct. So whether we like it or not, we have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, kids, from when you first started, even back to when you were playing, kids now are different. Mm-hmm. So you got to treat them, like I said, it's, everybody always says, treat everybody exactly the same, and you really can't. Mm-hmm. Every kid is different. And there's a difference too when you're coaching, freshmen and seniors, and depending on how much football they play too. It's different ways that you talk to them about certain things, and different different things. I mean, you're going to talk to Trace Laura way different than you're going to talk to Boleto. I mean, he's got 35 starts. Boleto doesn't have any. So there's certain things that you got to kind of and that kids these days, like I said, understand that and adapt to it a little bit better. The way that goes.
Yeah.
Talk about changes. In the 19 years, I was talking to Richie Lars. Shout out to Richie. Was talking about the dynamics of social media nowadays. How has that changed the atmosphere of the game, if you will?
I am thankful that I did not have to grow up with social media.
They got to do a suspension or two.
It would not have been good because I would have said something extremely inappropriate and hit post repeatedly. What I don't like about social media is the fact that, someone can post an opinion and right, wrong, or indifferent, people will respond to it, you know what I mean? And I personally don't like it. I have them all, and I try to keep everything positive. I don't want a negative post of any sort in any way. So I have all the social medias. I don't like it, but it's something we have to deal with. I mean, they want results right now,
right.
Chalmer and I were talking the other day in the office, and I've been fortunate enough to have 5 kids go on to an NFL camp. Okay. And all 5 of those kids, they did not start one game as a sophomore. So, to me, a battle we fought at Lawton High was that we would lose a handful of kids transitioning from 8th grade to freshman. We were 9 through 12. But then the bulk of our kids quit football between their 9th and 10th grade year because we had a separate 9th grade team. But that 10th grade year, that's the first time you're going to have to compete against a junior and a senior in your same position. And if we have a program like we have here, if we have a program, we have multiple kids in every position.
Right.
And, Coach Hill does the strength and conditioning stuff. He's in charge of developing that talent. And so if we're doing our job and, if we have the depth, typically sophomores probably aren't going to crack the lineup, and that's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? We want them to work hard. We're going to put the best 11 out there, but we want them to continue to work, continue to improve, because from an athletic standpoint, they usually make their biggest jump between their 10th and 11th grade year. And so with social media, they want the results right now. A lot of them are getting frustrated and looking elsewhere. The big thing that's happening here in Elgin is every sport is having success. And, like you take a kid like Ritson Meyer, for example. Ritson, he won 11 football games last year. He was double-digit wins in football. He won, 30 wrestling matches. He won a state title in wrestling. He won 34 football games. He won 34 baseball games. Went to the state tournament in baseball. That's impressive to me. You know what I mean? Right. That kid, that kid is a winner, and he's winning in everything that he does. And I don't know where else you could find a place that's having the success that Elgin's having across the board. I mean, they won the district in football. They won state in wrestling. They won regionals in baseball, and they won regionals in track. That's impressive for those kids. You know what I mean? And
even on the girls' side of things, softball's doing really well as well. I mean, things like that. And we joke about it all the time and say, "Oh, it's a great time to be an owl," and things like that. But I think if you ask maybe some of the Elgin people from early 2000s or whatnot, we laugh about it now. We kind of take it for granted because they're doing so good. But I mean, you ask some of the Elgin folks that have been here for a long time, or whatever. You go back to like the early 2000s or whatnot. It was an unprecedented time. I mean, we joke about it, but it really is a great time to be an owl. And I mean, it's a testament to it's starting at the top of his grass. Coach Laura as a principal, and it kind of funnels all the way down. All the head coaches are great people, and like I said, then also on top of it, the kids are good kids with great parents. And that makes things, I would think, a little bit easier for you guys as coaches.
I thought it was really cool the other day. Friday was our first day in pads, and we get to the office 6th hour. There's 2 dads that have taken off work.
Yeah,
they were already at the field house because they knew it was the first day of pads.
Right.
And then we get started with practice like 2:45. There's 10 to 12 dads out there because they know it's the first day of pads.
Yeah,
their kid's going to be hit, and that's a really cool situation, and that's special because it's not like that everywhere.
Right. Talk about kind of what's your. Obviously at Lawton High you're the head coach. Talk a little bit about that transition now. and kind of what your role is on the staff and things like that.
From a responsibility standpoint, I'm coaching receivers, and I've got the receiving core. When we go to the defensive side of the ball, I help Coach O with the DBs. And, when Coach White and I were talking about this, I said, look, I've been a head coach before. I've been a coordinator before. I'm not worried right now about becoming something else. I'm not. I said, you can put on the roster. You can put on the 9th grade JV coach for all I care. I don't care about titles. I don't want titles. I want to come to work, and it's my job to throw ideas out there. And it's the coordinator and Coach Wyatt is their responsibility to make the call, and whatever they say, hey, we're going to do, and we're going to go bust our butt and do it to the best of our ability. And I'm not looking, there's got to be, naturally, me coming in with head coach experience, there's got to be people nervous. Well, he's going to try to do this, he's going to try to take over. I don't care. I mean, they got a good thing going, and I just want to help out. I want to do anything I can to make Coach Wyatt's life easier, because I understand what it's like sitting in a big chair.
Right.
I mean, it's different when you're sitting in the big chair. You know what I mean? And like for me, I thought, well, I'm gonna be the best head coach ever, and that's the mindset you have. And then things happen. You're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but for me, I've got the receivers. I want to coach them really hard. I want to make us better blockers. I want to make us better route runners, improve our hands, and so that we can make explosive plays for the offense. And then, in that office, hey, think about this. If we like it, let's do it. If not, no big deal. We're moving on.
Right. Yeah, I think that does. I think it helps. I think it's going to help Coach Wyatt as well. I know Jack, I think he had one year, maybe stint as a head coach somewhere. But like I said, having another head coach and understanding what it takes to be, like I said, in that big chair and some of that stuff. I think you're going to be able to help him in some certain things and things like that. We haven't gotten to a Friday night yet. How do you anticipate that kind of happening? You used to kind of having to focus on the entire team, and now you can kind of, obviously you're going to be focused on the entire team, but now you're going to kind of get to focus on that one position. Have you thought about how that transition is going to go as well?
And that's something we've struggled with in the past is, coaches, they want to follow the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we each have a responsibility, and we've got to focus on our group. You know what I mean? The Coach Wyatt has to think about, both sides of the ball and special teams and clock management and all that. And the coordinator's got to think about, the play calling and all that. But we, as position coaches, we have to focus on our guys. You know what I mean? Are we getting lined up right? Are we playing hard? What can we do, to help? And so Friday night, I'm going to be focused on the receivers. You know what I mean? And there won't be a ton of talk between plays, because Coach Castro's we got to have the airway clear so he can get the call in, we can get a signal. And then, with huddle sideline now, and when we're on the field defensively, we'll be able to talk more, and hey, I like this, hey, I don't like this, or we first down we're getting this look, second down we're getting this look. So for me, it won't be. I don't see it being a whole lot different. I'm going to treat it the same. So I'm going to prepare like I'm the head coach or like I'm the coordinator. I'm not going to do anything different in my game prep and just try to go win games.
We got a big week coming up, practice-wise, I would say, with the change. You had some input about, practice will be around 7 o'clock, now 7:15 is starting. That's more similar to when game starts, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, with the wet bulb readings, it's hot right now, and it's even hotter on that turf.
Yeah.
And we knew we would probably get called off Friday. We had a feeling we would get called off, and so we had shortened some things anyway in preparation for that. Now, depending on how hot it gets and depending on what that wet bulb reading is, pretty much the biggest concession we can make is to go, 15 minutes, whatever we want, stop, give them a water break, 15 minutes, stop, give them a water break. And it extends the day quite a bit.
Well, it messes up. That would also kind of mess up just practice flow.
The flow of practice, you're right.
Yeah.
So what's cool now is, we're practicing on our game field. We can cut the lights on.
Yeah.
It is, it does cause a little bit of disruption to the typical flow in the sense that, we get the kids at 2:30.
Yeah, they're going to leave and have to come back.
They're going to leave and have to come back. Hopefully, they'll go home, knock out their homework, get all the school business taken care of from 3:30 to 7. And then from 7, we'll rock and roll. I like the fact of it because that's when we're going to kick off. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like the fact of go ahead and train the body now because that's when kickoff's going to be, and that's when we're going to play. So from that aspect of it, I really like it. And I mean, it's we talked earlier about adapting. I mean, when we were playing high school sports, that didn't happen. However, this is a small concession to make for player safety. You know what I mean? If we were to have a kid go down, there was actually an 80-year-old woman that went down on the track. I think it was Thursday.
Right.
She was just walking across, and they had to call fire and EMS. So, we're going to make the most of it, and I like the sense of we're going to kick off either at 7 or 8, depending. I think the first game will end up eventually.
I think they're going to push. Yeah.
So, if we're going to play there, let's go ahead and train there.
And for those listening, what that wet ball reading is, or when I was at practice yesterday, I talked to Miss Ashley a little bit about that. So it takes into account not only just the temperature, but the wind, humidity, some other things, and then there's a number. And I think it was like 96 or something like that. And there's a number or 94 or something. There's a number that you get to. Once you get to that number, you got to keep everybody off. And Friday, like I said, we got to that number and we had to get everybody. We started lower, so we were able to get it practice. We were able to get started, but then halfway during that practice, we got above that number, and that's when they had to call it off. So it's not just necessarily, if it's 110, we got to get off. It has other factors involved, not just the temperature, but obviously temperature is a big part of it because, like I said, humidity, wind, some other things involved. And once you get above that number, as the trainer and stuff like that, she's got to get everybody off.
How's that changed over the years in your experience?
I know when I was playing for Coach Laura, when practice starts, it'll be over when it's over. So
drink more water.
Yeah, that's how it's changed. But it's Friday. I talked to a coach in Wichita Falls. They got called off. Coach in Oklahoma City. Everyone that I talked to around us, they all got called off. This is something everybody's having to do now. And
Friday, if we didn't have the Little League scrimmages schedule, we probably would have pushed it back or tried, maybe started later or something like that, maybe to try and get it in. But with those Little League scrimmages kind of scheduled there, I mean, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So you want to try and get some work in. Yeah. I mean, and talk about that. I mean, missing a day when you have such a limited period of time. Because talking about some changes, I mean, now you only have like 2 weeks before a game.
We're playing week 0.
Right.
And so, we felt really confident, we would be able to play offensively and defensively. But the special teams, I mean, we've got to get, figure out who's going to be on the special teams and then get them all installed, get them ready. So we can't afford to have it.
Right.
I was told that MacArthur got called off Thursday and Friday. So they're actually going in the morning. They're going to go at 6 a.m. So we're able to come in the evening. But that's just it's about where everybody's fighting. You know what I mean? Like it or not. And
we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
So it's not like anybody has an advantage one way or the other. We all started at the same time. I think it's a little odd that if you have a week 0 game, you can't start a week earlier. Yeah. But that's a whole other, we'll talk to us, say, hey, what happened down the road? But the way it always, at least in college, the way it starts, it depends on your first game, and then you start X amount of days before that first game. Yeah. But in high school, there's just one day. That's the day you can start. And it doesn't matter if you have a week 0 game or a week 1 game, then, so when you have that week 0 game, we haven't had one since I've been here.
This is my first one too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it speeds the process up a little. So you got one less week of practice to get ready for that.
Mm-hmm. Another thing about practice too is having the evening time, it's going to allow for a lot of parents to show up. Yeah. So I anticipate that environment being pretty hot for practice.
Yes, that'll be neat.
I'm going to go into some players. I asked Coach Castro, Baker, Hill about some players that stood out. Then I'm just going to talk about what they said, and y'all can chime in. The first one, actually, I'm going to do Jason Collin at the same time.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out is always stood out to all the coaches, but Coach Castro's put is their willingness to help the younger players.
I think it's really cool, like, for example, in Jace's situation, Coach Baker's son is always wearing socks with his head on it, you know what I mean? They've got a really unique relationship. And, this summer, Colin would come get GB and take GB home. And those are, they're two really, really good players. Like, Jace is very, very physical, very violent, and Colin is a phenomenal tackler. What jumped out to me the first day was how well he reads, you know what I mean? Like, we've got power called at him, and, he meets us in the backfield. He saw the puller, he come and got it. Those are two very, very good football players. And, what I like about them is they play the game being extremely violent, but at the same time, they're really good humans, you know what I mean? Like
when they're both super, and that's kind of going back to what you talked about with Colin. They're both very, very smart football players. They're talented, but they're also smart. And and for those that don't know, Jace is committed to Navy, so that's a pretty cool deal for him there. But go ahead.
It's rare that you find that caliber of human being with that caliber of a player. Right. You know what I mean?
He also brought up Trace. He's looking really comfortable right now.
Yeah. I got to see, I came to the Elgin MacArthur game 2 years ago, the game where they hit Soul in the corner to win it. We were off that night, and that's the only game I've got to see Trace live, or see Elgin live. And when we got to spring ball, the very first day of spring ball, he drives a dig over the middle and in a tight window. I was like, oh God, I didn't know he could push the ball down the field the way he is. And I knew he was a good athlete. He's a good baseball player. He starts on the basketball team. I knew he was a good athlete, but I was impressed with his arm talent. He throws it really well, and he can push the ball down the field, and he fits it in tight windows. And he's a special player. I don't think people realize just how talented of a quarterback he is yet, because obviously the O-line is huge, and Lund ran for a gazillion yards, but Trace Lund is talented, and he puts the ball in the money.
Yeah, he's got, so just being at practice yesterday, you could see the jump from last year to this year. Not everything, but a lot of things last year and the last couple of years up to this point was 100 miles an hour. He has a great arm, so he's going to use that great arm every time he could. But yesterday, one of the most impressive things I saw, there was Dig coming across, and he's finally starting to learn, hey, I got to take something off of this one because that's a hard ball for those kids to catch. So I'm going to take a little bit off. Still got the air on the line. It's not like he put air under or anything, but made it a lot more catchable. And some of those screens and things like that, some of those, when the receiver's coming into you, back in the day, he could throw those things, and I would sit here and go, oh, we've got to take something off of it. And now he's finally starting to get that. And on top of it, like I said, he looks a little bit leaner. He looks a little bit quicker. And so it would be interesting to see. He's never really taken off. He's kind of 1, 2, 3 read and then maybe throw it out of bounds or get sacked. I would think this year things are going to slow down, first of all, for him. But I think, after that 1 or 2, I think he feels himself a little bit more athletic too and running. I can see him taking off a little bit more and kind of get some positive yards on some of those broken plays that we haven't had before in the past. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to him. And like I said, he's a great kid. He works hard. He's there every day. Coach's kid. All his brothers are playing quarterback here too. So and like I said, now he's 11 games, 34, 35 starts in high school. You don't see that often.
That doesn't happen very often.
No. So, and like I said, every single game, the more you play, the slower it gets, the better it is, the easier it is to read the stuff and some of that type of stuff. So, with him and Castro and Coach Wyatt kind of all on the same page, you're going to see some different things probably this year than you have in the past.
Yeah. The next two, he talked about Brody Morrison and Howie.
Brody, what jumped out to me at team camp was, we got him some screens and he pulled away. There were some DBs that got an angle, he still pulled away. He caught 2 really nice post balls. I know one of them that Braden Thomas picked up. It was a one-handed. I didn't realize it was a one-handed catch. I knew he caught it, but I was behind the ball, didn't realize he caught it one-handed. He's a very good athlete. You can see with his ball skills, you can see the fact he's an elite outfielder, the way he adjusts to the ball, especially a deep ball. But what really jumped out to me was his ability to run. Like he's a long strider, so once he gets the stride open up, he can pull away from people. Eating similar stride, he's long, he's 6'4", but he is a good looking kid.
Yeah.
And, he's going to be a matchup problem, and I like what we're doing, moving him around. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll have a big year because he's built like a tight end.
Yeah.
And he runs like a wide out.
Yeah.
The length that he has, he can go get a ball. He missed the first couple 7-on-7s with the stress fracture.
Right.
But that first 7-on-7 he was at, man, the second or third play, he goes up and gets a ball, and he was covered, and he went and got it. It was a really impressive play. In fact, Coach Castro was shaking me. He was all fired up about it. But yeah, I'm excited about that kid. He's a talented kid.
Yeah. If he can put it all together, I know he's a senior. He's a senior this year. If he can put it all together, health and match the way he looks, he's going to, like you said, he's going to be a matchup nightmare, especially down in the red zone type area and some of those type of places. But I don't think one thing that you get lost with him is because he's so big. He's lean, but he's fast.
Yeah,
super fast.
He ran on the 4x1.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when he gets it, he's got a height advantage over a lot of kids. So the red zone's going to be important. But if he gets one of those posts or one of those, corner routes or whatever, he's going to run away from some people too. If he can put it all together, he's in line for a huge year, in line to potentially get a pretty decent offer and play at the next level if he can put it together. And then Brody, one of the best athletes, if not the best athlete on our team. You can see him playing both sides of the ball a ton. Expect bigger things from him at receiver. He's going to kind of take over some of that Adesola and Crabtree stuff from last year. You're just going to have to find times to get him off the field. That's going to be the hard part because he's going to be your returner. He's one of the better safeties in all of Oklahoma. And then now we're asking him to do a lot at the receiver spot. So it'll be interesting to see when we're able to rest him because he's going to kind of be like Ritz in there where you want to keep him on the field all the time, but you're going to have to just to kind of get him the breaks here and there. So looking forward to seeing him at that receiver spot. And like you said, it's a sneaky deal. Last year was kind of the same thing. He doesn't look like a 4-4 kid or anything like that. The next thing you know, he gets punt return and he's running away from everybody. And you're like, okay, well, I didn't see that coming. I think you'll see some of that more this year. And he's gotten bigger. He's like you said, he's kind of between that sophomore and junior year now, and he's starting to grow into that body or so. And looking at him and yesterday, it looks like he even got maybe an inch or two taller, maybe if not more than that. So those two, like I said, I expect big things from as well.
He also brought up Hudson. He said Hudson probably had the best offseason out of anybody.
What I really liked about that kid was every day at summer weights, every drill that he did it with intent. You know what I mean? Like my big deal is we want to train with Friday night intensity, and Hudson does that. You know what I mean? We go to team camp and we have a screen where we get Hudson out. We've actually thrown the tunnel screen to Brody, and the first time we throw it, Brody catches it, and the outside backer sitting there. It looks like he's about to make the play, and Hudson just comes through and cleans his clock. Lazy mouth. The outside backer, Hudson was playing center at the time. The outside backer never saw Hudson. Hudson kicks him out. Brody gets up in the tunnel and houses it, and it was a phenomenal play. The entire stadium went nuts because of that block. And but in order for a lineman to make that play, they have to train like that all the time, and that's what really jumped out to me when Hudson is like on my Tuesdays. I had a hurdle drill, and we had to go over every hurdle, and then on the way back, the DBs had to drop, the LBs had to drop. Well, I made the lineman kick slide like they would on pass protection. And it's literally just something we can do instead of walking back to the end of the line. And freaking Hudson got in a stance every single time, and kick slided with intent. You know what I mean? And it really jumps out at you. You don't see that a lot by a sophomore lineman one. Right. You know what I mean? But there's a reason that kid is so talented, and it's because of his work ethic. He's made himself into a player. He's got great got great strength, but in the weight room, upper body and lower body. But what really jumped out to me is, every single thing that he does with Friday night intensity, and it's fun because those kids don't come around very often.
Well, he's explosive too. For sure. I mean, like I said, and we talked about it a little bit last week with his dad. I mean, hey, his dad's a great guy. And I mean, so that's a great role model to be inside of your own home and things like that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that comes from dad. But he's super explosive too. We talked about it with the power clean side of things. I mean. But he had to grow up last year because he played every single game as a freshman, and not going into the year, we weren't 100% sure if he was going to. So he grew up a lot, and then it was interesting yesterday too to watch the relationship that him and Jace have together. I think he kind of looks up to Jace a little. Obviously, kind of Jace has proven himself and done that stuff. And yesterday after practice, he couldn't scoop, or he couldn't do. He messed up scooping or reaching or something, and. I mean, as soon as it happened during 7-7 drill, he looked over at Jace, and both of them said, "Okay, we'll work on that after practice." And after practice, the two of them were scooping and reaching, and it was like, okay, they get it, And like I said, I mean, and you don't realize too, because he's only a sophomore sometimes, but then he stays next to Jace, he's just as big.
Yeah, he's a big barrel-chested kid.
Yeah, big old kid. I mean, built just like a lineman needs to be, but he still has that athletic ability to get out and pull and do some of those things where he's not just your big, I'm just going to road grade here. He can get out and lead some of those tunnel screens and some of those type of things too. So, I think he's got a great year coming up, but a big future too, if he can progress and continue to get better. Because he shows a ton of improvement. Last year, I mean, if you would ask anybody, they probably wouldn't have known he was a freshman. Yeah, but you can see the difference. I mean, he took this summer seriously. And you can see the difference in athletic ability, size, strength, and some of that type of stuff. So it's a fun thing to watch when you're at practice. And like I said, I did that wrong. I know I did it wrong. I know you know how to do it right. Let's talk. We're going to continue practice, but hey, we're going to go back and do this. And then after practice, they didn't forget about it. They were out there doing it. Yeah. I mean, because you can say, "Oh yeah, I'll work on it after practice. I'll throw 100 balls." I'll get to that. You look up and nobody's out there after practice. So that was a pretty cool thing to watch.
No, I mean, and you see in practice, he's constantly talking to Jace. I watched Jace talk to him for about 3 minutes. Where they was working on a kick step on the sideline. So it's a big deal, and also him coming in as with 80 plus kids on the team, it's not typical for a freshman to start that many games. As he did last year. So coming in as a sophomore, it has to be kind of a big deal.
To me, freshmen being ready to play as a freshman at O-line and quarterback are almost impossible. Right. It's just like the
skill position,
the physical demands of an O-lineman to be ready to play as a freshman is extremely difficult. And then, the skill position, an athlete maybe will take over. But being able to come in and play as a freshman up front at the 5A level, that's a rarity,
Run every play, like I said, if a skill guy you can sneak a freshman in there for a play or two at receiver, running back, and give him the ball, this, that, and the other. But I mean, when you're in those trenches, like I said, you're playing every single down and just getting pounded on and whatnot. But there's a big difference between a 14-year-old kid and an 18-year-old kid.
Exactly, that's a huge deal.
And I mean, for him to handle his own and do perfectly fine last year, I mean, he was never an issue or anything. And then, like I said, he's only going to get better because of that.
And I'll tell you another one, Shea Spencer is really talented.
He's a freaky athlete.
I watched the Midwest City film, and if you go I don't know, it's the first play or second play of the game, they get in an unbalanced look and want to power right at him, and he sinks to split the double team or sinks to take on the double team, then pops up and makes a play for no gain, and oh my God, I didn't expect that. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge play. It's an unbelievably athletic play, and he's a really talented kid. And offensively, the O-line is going to be special. And then defensively, the front five, when you throw in those, Jace, Shea, and Kephart, and then Donnelly and Ritson inside, that's a front five that can play with anybody. Yeah. And they're going to cause a lot of people problems. And I don't know that people will be able to sustain anything between the tackles. They're going to force everything outside. And the good news is we're forcing outside of some good players. Yeah. So, but I'm excited about it. The front five offensively and the front five defensively, I think, are really, really talented.
The front five offensively yesterday, when they went to 7-on-7 and CJ was playing center, it was.
That's big.
It's a big. I mean, when you look out there, and I mean, everybody understands and knows Shea. I mean, Shea might be the smallest one out of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you're like, that's a big. That's a big high school offensive line.
He's an athlete too.
Yeah, Shea's an unbelievable. I mean, freaky athlete.
He's way more athletic than what you would think when you
Yeah.
see him walk on the field, you know. And
Yeah.
he's a pretty dynamic kid. He made a play yesterday on the sideline from his DN spot, ran the running back down. So
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, and I mean, it shows up on Fridays too. I mean, that's the cool part about it. And like I said, he was one that Lance told me about last week of how he worked and how much more explosive he's gotten and things like that. He said, look, I mean, he had a huge year last year, and I mean, expect some similar things this year as well. I mean, but this year they're going to focus on him a little bit. But it's hard to focus on him because you got Jason on the defensive side, because you got Jason in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kephart's going to have to prove himself a little because he's kind of the new link. But I mean, he's a freaky athlete
He's a dynamic athlete.
Yeah. And so the three of them up front, I mean, that's tough to kind of game plan for, especially when you got the two back there, like you said, Ron Brown and Colin. 20-something tackles in the game, and then Ritson being the athlete he is. So, like I said, that front five on both sides, that's where we're going to win a lot of football games.
Exactly.
Trace may have some big yards. Richard may run the ball for a lot of yards and whatnot, but we're going to win and lose a lot. We're going to, whether or not we win or lose, is going to be on those front five on both sides of the ball.
Yep. That's a good transition to defense side. That's the first person Coach Hill and Coach Baker brought up was Shea. Mm-hmm. He's going to be hard to handle.
Yes.
Coach Baker also brought up Brody Morrison in the secondary.
Mm-hmm. Really good free safety. I mean, covers a lot of ground. Good ball skills. Keeps everything in front. I like Hunter Jackson too. The game I came to 2 years ago.
Yeah, MacArthur. Yeah, he was on that
You
field.
see this little bitty number 10. Okay, there's the point of attack, and heck, he made a buttload of plays and phenomenal tackler, and high motor kid. Those two safeties are really good, and they're different players. Brody being the more typical free, where he can roam around, and Hunter being the aggressive kid that sticks his nose in, makes a lot of tackles around the LS. The corners I like. I know there's a handful of them battling, and probably whoever loses that corner battle will play a lot more offensive reps to rest those guys, because offensively we can control where the ball goes. Defensively we can't. But Bryce Martin is a dynamic athlete. Gabe Rush is a whole lot better athlete than I thought. Heck, he qualified for state in the high jump. He's a long kid, and he'll get a lot of reps at receiver. Adesola's back again. He played a lot. Then the two Joey Arlano and then Corday Ritchie, they both have really good speed. They both run well, and so if they don't win one of the corner battles, we'll be able to play them a lot at wide out and get some quality reps out of them. I'm excited about it. And of course, Kaysen, Richard's little brother, he had a really good spring. The 2 days of camp, he had a ton of TDs, and I think he's Richard's backup to spell Richard defensively when we need to give Richard a blow. And Braxton Antuna, great speed. I think he had our fastest 40 time the other day when we timed, and we're playing him at outside backer. And then Philip Peebushy had a really good summer, and he's done a good job there playing the Bandit. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Baker, it was really impressed with Peebushy from all indications. I mean, that was Andre Crabtree. That was kind of one of those defensive guys that we were thinking that's going to be hard to replace, just because that Bandit requires so much. And Andre was so smart and had played a lot of football and things like that. So that was that one spot that we were, who's going to step up there, and tried a couple people during the spring, and Philip just kind of outshowed everybody and has kind of locked that position up to a certain degree, and has done a great job. Yeah. So, but then going back to what you said originally with Brody, maybe one of the better safeties in the state. I know there's some good kids out there that have some big D1 offers and stuff like that, but Brody is only a junior, and a lot of his stuff too is, he's just got good athletic instincts.
Exactly right.
So it's natural to him. I know at one point we talked about playing him at quarterback some, and he worked there as a freshman. So you can kind of see like that mental side of things. He, like I said, he's just got great athletic instincts, and that's huge for a safety back there, because he's usually not. if he does get beat, he's right there on top of it anyway. So,
I mean, he's deep snapping. He's playing free, returning kicks. I mean, he does it all.
And then, like you said, Hunter Jackson is probably one of my favorite kids on the team, just because, like you said, you look out there and you go, okay, 10. That's who we're going to pick on.
Yeah.
And then 3 plays into it, you're like, oh, let's go away from number 10. You know better than anybody, Derek. Seeing him with being with him was wrestling all the time. I mean, he's just a tough little son of a gun. And it's my wife's favorite player for sure.
Yeah.
My wife talks about him all the time. My wife's an old defensive coordinator's daughter, and her brother played safety and all that kind of stuff. The first time she came to the game was like, that kid shouldn't be out there. And then, like I said, by halftime, she was like, oh, I like him. He's good. He's a little scrappy little guy.
Always in the picture. Right. Always around the pop.
Right.
He's a good human too.
Yeah,
he's a good human. There's a lot of role models on that team, but he's one that sticks out to me. He works with my son a lot in wrestling. You know, it's not uncommon for Dax to be hitting him up, hey, you want to go practice? And they be up there practicing in the wrestling room on their off time. So
that's cool.
And football season too.
Yeah,
you know, so I love it. Colin. Coach Baker said Colin's going to be Colin on defensive side.
I can't wait because, you know, I haven't had an opportunity to coach a big physical middle linebacker like that in a long time. And he's fun. You know, like the very first day of spring when we're doing, you know, tackle circuit, I've got angle tackle and it's going, you know, there's a little bit of popping. And his first time through, he just decapitates a kid. And everything was clean. He just leveled this kid. You're like, oh my. And then when we get the inside run, we've got the script, we got power right at him. He reads puller, he fits it over the top, stuffs it in the backfield, 1 yard loss. I'm like, oh wow, this kid, he's special. He's a special kid. In fact, the fact that I played at Southwestern, the athletic director there now is the one that recruited me. And when they came in, I told the assistant from Southwestern, like, hey, look, there's about 7 or 8 kids here you need to offer today. And if you don't offer Laura and Donnelly, I'm calling your boss. You need them. They are Southwestern kids, you know what I mean? And he's a special player, and he's going to have a great year. I can't wait to watch him. And I love how, you know, he plays the game. You know, very intelligent, but still he's dirty. I mean, he's nasty. He's going to get after it, you know. And he's one of those guys that you're really, really glad he's on your team, and you're not having to block him.
Well, and he's a gamer too. I mean, last year, in that Midwest City game, I mean, what do you have, 28, 29 tackles?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that often. And like I said, I mean, that turned into, you know, most of the time our offense was putting up 50 and 60. Well, that game, it wasn't really clicking. And so, you know, my understanding at some point about halfway through the first quarter or halfway through the second quarter, you know, Jack said, we're going to have to win this game. And Colin said, no problem. You know, and then next thing you know, he's got 28, 29 tackles. So, I mean, he's a gamer on top of it. And then I don't think people understand, A, how hard it is to play middle linebacker, but B, the mental side of playing middle linebacker. And he's so, just like we were talking about Brody, I mean, he's got just the instincts to, you know, he's not the fastest, he's not necessarily the biggest, but he's back there the fastest, and he sheds off anybody that gets him. So he's fun to watch on the defensive side of the ball.
And they told me this story, and I've been a part of this. So, you know, when Midwest City completed the last play of the game to beat us in, was that 22 for the district title down here?
Yeah.
I guess they celebrated pretty good. And Midwest City does this thing in pregame where they spell out bombers. And when they get done with their warm-up, they all yell and scream, sprint to the 50-yard line, spell out bombers. And it is intimidating. Like, you're not supposed to cross the 50 in warm-ups, and they get to jawing pretty good, and they spell out bombers. And like, when you're on the other side of it, if you don't know what's coming, it is pretty intimidating. Well, I guess, you know, last year when we went to Midwest City, here they come running, and Colin goes at him, you know what I mean? And he's jawing right back. And that's when you've been on the wrong side of that, like, that's a really cool situation, because 18 ain't backing down, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to go get it, and that's really cool, and it kind of sets the tone for everybody else, you know what I mean? Everybody else sees that, because Midwest City is doing that just to intimidate you.
Right.
And they're going to run everybody at the 50, and they're going to scream and yell and bounce.
And your leader's right there with you.
And our guy's going to the fire. You know what I mean? He's running to the noise, and not everybody does that. And that's what you want leading a defense.
Well, and one of the other things, just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of that and kind of finalize this with Colin, he's nasty, but he's not dirty. Mm-hmm. Everything is between the whistles. Mm-hmm. You know, you get some of those middle linebackers that can kind of have some of that mentality that go a little above and beyond, the Bill Romanowskis and some of those guys. And Colin does it all, you know, the right way, in between the whistles. And now you might talk about it a little. I mean, he's a little bit of a talker, but like I said, nothing malicious, nothing, you know, not trying to yank anybody's ankles at the bottom of the pile or any of that type of stuff. And I mean, there's a fine line between that, because most of those guys, when you think of that, with the neck rolls and this, that, the other, are the kind of, and if you met Colin outside of it, you would never think that he is, you know, what is it, CD 187? You would think he's just a little, you know.
He's got that persona between the lines.
Yeah, he puts it on and becomes Superman when he puts the uniform on.
Coach Baker talked about some younger players, Braden Jones, Brady Paraway, and Jackson Southern.
Braden Jones is a high motor kid. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's going to make a whole lot of plays for us, just high motor. You know what I mean? He was out yesterday versus our ones, and, you know, we're going to counter at him, and he defeats the down, splits the pullers, and blows it up. I mean, it's a really, really nice play. And, you know, you can tell he's made himself into a player. He's got a great body, a lot of muscle tone, good upper body strength. And with his high motor, I think he'll make it play. Paraguay's had a really good summer. You know what I mean? Like, he's really changed his body. I guess he was kind of a pudgy kid last year. He's lost all the baby fat. And
yes, he's a different looking kid, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, had a really good off season. It was the third
Jackson.
Yeah. See, Sutherland wasn't there spring ball,
right?
And but he's had a really good summer. He had the biggest hit so far. I mean, he blew Brody up on a dig, and I'm excited about that kid. You know, he's getting after it. I think he's going to be in the mix.
I think he's
tight end and outside back.
I expect him to get some pretty meaningful snaps at that outside linebacker. Yesterday, he was real impressive.
Yeah, he's a thick kid, you know.
Yeah. I mean, playing quarterback last year, I mean, so, you know, usually don't think of an outside linebacker as a quarterback, but yeah, I mean, he yesterday he was very impressive at that outside linebacker spot, and I see him getting a bunch of meaningful snaps there, playing well.
Yeah.
And then one kid that's looked a lot better spring. I mean, he's got a lot of hype and all that kind of stuff, and Ant, you know, committed to Tennessee and all that kind of stuff. He's a new kid on the block, and not many people know about him yet and all that kind of stuff. But spring, I mean, swimming, I think. I mean, I think he was more, you know, you can always see he's an athlete. I mean, he's big as heck, but you can see his footwork and stuff like that, so you can kind of understand why he's got the offers he's got and why he's committed to an SEC school and all that kind of stuff. But I think in the spring it was just, you know, trying to learn a new playbook, trying to learn new kids and whatnot. I mean, he was just kind of swimming. But yesterday, I mean, I know it's only the second day in pads yesterday, but it was way different than what I saw during the spring.
You know, his first day is live from Channel 5, and he did have to learn a new system, and now I think, you know, he's more comfortable with it, and he looks like really talented. You see, you know, you see what Tennessee sees, and he's a big kid, and I really think he's going to play his best football week 10. You know what I mean?
I think he's going to get better.
By the time the playoffs roll around, I think, you know, we'll look out there and realize, hey, 55 is a really grader. He's a big joker that can move, and I think he'll really punish some people.
Well, and being next to Jace too is going to help him. I mean, Jace is going to help him along. I mean, Jace played that position last year. Jace is going to move into guard, so Jace knows everything that he's got to do because he's done it for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at that, I mean, we talked about the offensive line as a whole. Hey, first of all, it's 2 D1 commits.
2 D1.
I mean, so I mean, that in and of itself says a lot for a Oklahoma offensive line. But dude, just the size of them.
Yeah. The other day we pulled Jace and Colin, and you're looking at almost 900
pounds of
coming at you. So we got to be able to get some movement with it.
Yeah, you think so. And then it doesn't hurt too that your running back now is 185, 190. He's not a little small kid either.
No, he's over 200.
Yeah, he's over 200, man. Of course, he looked good when we maxed, and he got to yelling and screaming, pound his chest, squatted 405. I mean, he's a load.
Yeah.
I mean, state champion wrestler too.
Right.
And, he's mean as well.
So I'm going to touch a little bit more on your background. So growing up a coach's kid, what does it mean to you to kind of be following your dad's footsteps?
It's cool, you know what I mean? Like I was my daycare was the gymnasium, you know what I mean? Like I went to every coach's work day I was up there and I was running around the gym, and so that was something that I wanted to do, and I even want my kids to do that. Last year my daughter was our ball boy or our ball girl, whatever, and she's really into it. She's not quite the little girl off of Remember the Time.
Yeah.
She's close, our two little ones are still a little young. One big concern we have right now is the fact that, we weren't exactly selling out Cameron Stadium last year, so my two little rugrats could run around, but Elgin is packed. What I mean? Like, I'm afraid our two little ones are going to have to hang out by the field house because
I got a 4-year-old that runs around like crazy chaos there.
It's going to be something new, and my wife's a little nervous about that. In fact, she talked about not bringing the littles to the first game just to get the feel for it, but no, we're excited, and it was cool, and what's funny is my wife, her dad was a high school football coach, and he went in to be a superintendent, so we've grown up around it, and that's all we know, and we're excited.
Other than the playoffs or the state championship, is there any other games you're looking forward to this year?
Man, me personally, I hate everybody that we play. Like, I hate everybody. MacArthur be fun, you know what I mean? Of course, I know all those guys on that staff, and it'll be a really good game. It'll be when I got to speak to the kids for our little character class. That's one of the things I mentioned. Like that game 2 years ago when Elgin came to MacArthur. There was probably 10, 11,000 people there. And the fact that we're playing week 0, it's Thursday night, everybody will want to come see, everybody in Lawton will want to come see what MacArthur's got. And, you'll have a ton of Eisenhower kids there, you have a ton of Lawton High kids there. And MacArthur will have a good crowd. And I think even with all of that, there'll still be more Elgin fans. And so it wouldn't surprise me if game 1 we're not in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think 2 years ago that Elgin Mac game was the highest attended game at Cameron that year. It surpassed the inner city games. So that it being the first game is fun, and the fact that we. It'll be a heck of a crowd. It'll be a heck of an environment. Game 1, and they've got the 4 D1 kids. Like it'll be probably the most athletic team we see.
Yeah, I'd say that.
I mean, going to college in Weatherford, I'm excited about playing Weatherford. I actually got to student teach at Clinton, so I was really kind of hoping we were at Clinton this year. I wanted to go play a game in the Tornado Bowl, but. I think that'll be neat. I got to, I know a lot of the guys on the Clinton staff. A lot of them are still there from when I student taught, and Clinton's a diehard football town.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about those games, but really focused on game 1, and we want to beat the Highlanders and be 1-0. And I mean, I don't think I dislike everybody on the schedule, and I want to try to beat them 50-0. You know what I mean? So equal hate opportunity guy. You know what I mean? So
I think the Hillcrest one's going to be fun too. Just because you always hear Texas high school football and all that kind of stuff. I think they're an inner city school. Some
we actually had a handful of kids that. They had a ton of Lawton kids on their roster just 2-3 years ago. There was about 3 or 4 kids. I don't know what the connection was to Hillcrest, but I know when when we were looking for that non-district game, that popped up. I was like, man, I'd like to play those guys. That'd be cool. And I guess the head coach played for the Broncos or something. So, and they brought him over from South Oak Cliff, and South Oak Cliff's had a ton of success late. So,
and I think that would be cool too for them to come up here and see. Because I'm sure they're kind of partially thinking, Oklahoma football, high school football, yada, yada, yada. And then when they pull in and see, the facilities that we have, the stadium that we have, that'll be our first home game. So I can only imagine it was going to be packed. So it'll be a good kind of for us to show off a little about what Elgin's all about and Oklahoma high school football.
They called, I guess they're bringing some fan buses, what I mean? So they'll have, if they're going to bring some busloads of fans.
I mean, a couple hundred, yeah.
What goes into out-of-state games? Is there any with refs? Because I know you talked about the difference in media and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple years ago, Cash went down there, and we weren't able to broadcast. We weren't able to video. We were able to broadcast, but we had to do audio only. Officials, sometimes you kind of that. I would assume since we're in Oklahoma, we're going to have Oklahoma officials, and usually that's kind of taken care of by the home team. So as far as us, nothing's going to really change on our end. But those out-of-state games, I mean, you see some of those bigger programs do it. Those ESPN. I mean, probably next weekend is going to be that ESPN weekend where they play 7 or 8 games, and some of those Florida schools play Louisiana schools, California schools, some of that type of stuff. So those are a little bit different because those are kind of national brands. But usually it's kind of the home team. You would know better than me. Usually the home team kind of takes wherever it's at is kind of what rules apply.
We'll play OSSA Federation rules. There is a little bit of difference because Texas plays NCAA. For example,
hash marks,
cutting. The cutting, they can't cut downfield. That's always a big one. You know what I mean? In Texas, they can cut. Like the receivers downfield, they can cut. They don't have to block up top. And the blocked extra point. If we block an extra point, ball's dead. If they block an extra point, they can return it for 2, or even return a kickoff out of the end zone. So I hope they know that. You know what I mean? We got to go play. We played Deion Sanders' team in 14 and 15. 14 they came here, and 15 we went down there, and those were things that we had to go over just because our kids aren't accustomed to those rule changes.
And next year when we go there, we'll play their rules more than likely. And that's kind of the way it's at.
You mentioned the ESPN deal, something that we learned from going to the finals is that big ESPN weekend, right? They try to pair a Oklahoma school and a Texas school, whatever, and they start with the state champion. Okay, do you want to play? Do you want to play? And if the state champion says no, then they offer the next one in line. So in 14 and 16, when we went to the finals, ESPN actually offered us a chance to play. One year was going to be East St. Louis, and then the next year was going to be DeSoto. And thank God we weren't able to. We already had game 1 being the our game because God bless DeSoto.
DeSoto was a fun one.
It would have been really, really close at kickoff. You know what I mean? And then it would have got ugly in a hurry. But if we can put something together, maybe we have an opportunity to go do that next year. So.
All right, so moving to final words. Start with you, Vincent.
Yeah, final words. Coach Breeze, happy to have you here. I mean, I know you're going to help the staff a ton. I know so far it's kind of been a seamless transition. It seems like kind of getting in the coach's office and stuff like that. So happy to have you here, and then all your experience I know will help not only the entire coaching staff, but Coach Trummer as well. Like I said, he's never really had that, somebody else to lean on. Like I said, Jack had that 1 year as a head coach, but now sometimes you can lean on kind of your experience and stuff like that. So looking forward to how all that works out. And then we talked about it a little bit last week. Just looking forward to the season. I mean, we're 11 days away, 10 days away. Milk's going to expire for the first game or whatnot. So looking forward to that one. I mean, nothing better than that. Nothing better than game 1 because every year's a new year. We got a ton of kids back, and it's going to be just every year's a new year. Every team takes on a different personality. I mean, that team last year, like I said, a lot of these kids are coming back, but this year's going to have a whole different feel to it, a whole different personality, because that's just the way football is. Every year is a new year and a different personality and a different team. So looking forward to seeing what this 2024 Elgin Owls team has in store for us, and really looking forward to that first game because, like I said, It's kind of built into a cool little rivalry. Had the one game, had the close one the 2 years ago, the blowout last year. I think that game was a little bit closer than what it happened, and then the wheels just kind of fell off for them. They got some good kids coming back. You know, you got 4 or 5 D1 kids. One's already committed to Arkansas. Their quarterback, you know, has a whole year under his belt now, has a whole spring where he knows he's the guy. Last year he kind of split some time in the beginning, but now he knows he's the guy, and he's a pretty talented kid. So that one's going to be a tough one, but it's cool that that's week 1 or week 0, but our first game, because that made us, like I said, work a little bit harder probably during that off season and some of that type of stuff. So really looking forward to that one, and looking forward to getting out of practice probably some now that it's going to be at night this week. Kind of check out and see what's going on there, but just super excited about the entire year and just happy that it's football season, because there's no season like it, and it's the best season. It's the best season of the year, if you ask me.
I think it's the greatest team sport there is.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes 11 guys. They got to go temporarily psychotic for 5 seconds, and they got to come back, gather themselves, get in a huddle, get a play call, go do it again. So, I mean, and one guy's not going to beat you. It takes 11, and so, I mean, me personally, I'm excited. I think we got a chance to be really good. Hopefully, we can stay healthy and, you know, make a run in December.
Coach Reed, I mean, we're all glad to have you. I was doing a podcast with Coach Hill, and I just wasn't even thanking you as a new coach. And I feel like we've been here for a while. So, yeah, glad to have you, man.
I'm glad to be here. We're fired up, and like I said, you know, everybody that I sought advice from said, get your butt to Elgin as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And, you know, that means something. And, you know, we're happy to be here, and it's been great for us and so far, and my daughter's loving it. She's, you know, got a handful of friends already, went to her first dance, but you know, football's going to get to rolling, and I think we got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Go Owls.
If you like this podcast, go to the Mr. Bean patron website and make a donation. The link will be in the description.